What is going on, everybody? AHS Rules back again with another video as we're here for another Ring of Honor TV review, episode number 88, a Halloween edition of Ring of Honor. As you can tell, I am not dressed up because A, it is no longer actually Halloween, and B, I have not dressed up for Halloween since I was 8 years old. But I do have something scary for you. This episode of Ring of Honor was 3 hours for some reason, and I don't really know why. I will say that a lot of the matches were very repetitive and stuff that we've seen before. A lot of them were squash matches, but we did have a pretty big main event take place, something that we've been waiting months for. So we got a ways away before we get to that, so let's just jump right into this TV review. As this episode opens up with the Righteous, and they mainly mention broken promises that they've been dealt with, and the exact quote was that broken promises are like broken glass, and that they have suffered scars from them, and talk about the different scars that they have, and the biggest scar that they have is not being the World Tag Team Champions, calling out Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes, who, I'm not going to say I forget that they're the Tag Team Champions, but they don't appear so often. They very rarely appear that it kind of, it would be understandable if I did forget. Now, spoiler, they do appear later. But the Righteous call out to Samy and Dustin because they're not family, and that Samy is a snake and will turn on Dustin at some point, which the gist of almost any Righteous rivalry or match that set up is them calling their opponents out and saying that one of them is going to turn on another. There is a rebuttal from the tag champions a bit later on. As our opening contest is a bit of a odd pairing tag team match. Preston Vance and Peter Avalon versus Beef and JD Drake. Now, JD Drake is stepping up to fill the role that his workhorseman tag partner Anthony Henry filled in a tag team with Beef, because JD Drake was injured, and immediately when he comes back, Anthony Henry is injured, so we're a bit of a wait for the workhorsemen to reunite. But Beef is now teaming up with JD Drake, who is not his second cousin by marriage like Anthony Henry is, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So, Preston Vance and Peter Avalon versus Beef and JD Drake. Vance and Beef start the match off where they try to outpower one another with shoulder bumps, but Vance was able to do this after a delayed suplex. Drake and Avalon tag in, who are both former members of the Wingmen, which I kind of forgot until Ian Riccaboni mentioned it on commentary, and they deliver chops against one another. Drake hurts his hurt foot once Avalon tries to throw him to the outside, and he gets stuck in the rope. And then Vance accidentally hits Avalon, and Drake takes advantage of this by pushing Vance to the outside and hitting Avalon with a lariat, and then hitting him with the JD driver, and then Beef finishes the match off for their tag team with a top rope splash. They have a promo a little bit later. I don't have the notes for it right now, so we'll get to it when we get to it. Next matchup, Johnny TV versus Deion Rossman. Like I said, this episode was 3 hours ago, so this is 3 hours ago. I'm seeing a lot of this stuff, so I've kind of forgot about a lot of it already. So I might need a bit of a reminder. This is why you always take notes. Johnny TV versus Deion Rossman. There's a portion of this match where the two are taunting one another. Johnny TV attempts to hit a standing shooting star press, and the commentary team they think that the reason he messed up is that he was aiming for Rossman's no-no area, but he still hits him in the no-no area with a kick a little bit later on. The pair hit Johnny TV hits a pair of rolling neck breakers, and wins the match off of a Starship Pain. An extremely quick match is up next, that being the Gates of Agony versus CSJ and Dane Dotra. Khan and Dave start the match off with the Gates immediately tossing Dave into the corner and trapping CSJ, forcing him to tag in, and the Gates win the matchup off of a double choke slam. It's a bit insane how many people are undefeated in Ring of Honor. So anytime the Gates of Agony appear, it shows their Ring of Honor record. 15-0, I would say 16-0 now after winning this matchup. Dustin and Samy respond to the Righteous that I mentioned earlier and saying that, yeah, they were right about some things and that they're wrong. That, yeah, they're not family, but it's as close as they can get. And that Samy has Dustin's back, and they offer them a tag team title shot, and that they will be watching their matchup later on tonight. Next matchup is Lady Frost versus Raina Isus. The two exchange arm drags and hurricanranas. This is followed by Isus doing a dive to the outside. Once back in the ring, the two exchange some chops. Frost hits the corner frostbite that gets a 2 count. Isus positions Frost onto the second rope and hits a leg drop to win the matchup. An odd pairing for this next matchup, but at least they added context for it. It is a pure rules match. Aaron Solo versus Matt Taven. Now, the match, these two on their own would be okay. In a pure rules match, it's kind of out of the two's element, but the commentary team kept adding context to this that Matt Taven has held every championship in Ring of Honor, which is a bit insane, except for the pure championship, so he's aiming to close out and win the pure title. Solo uses his first rope break attempt early, but then targets the knees of Taven, which are very weak. Solo's second rope break attempt comes after escaping a crossface, and then his third rope break attempt comes after Taven hits a climax and he puts his foot on the rope. But then Taven gets him in a crossface in the center of the ring to win the matchup. And after the match, Lee Moriarty appears on the stage, pointing at Taven and hoisting his championship above him. Now, that Beef and JD Drake segment I talked about, and saying that they had unique chemistry, and that is because they are family. And JD Drake had to remind him that they actually aren't family. Like, it's a joke between Beef and Anthony Henry because they're second cousins by marriage. But, like, JD Drake is legitimately not related to him. But JD Drake does seem a bit nicer to Beef than Henry is. Next matchup, The Righteous versus Jay Marston and Soloman Tuppy. Such weird names on this episode. Marston and Vincent start the match off, but is extremely quick with the Righteous winning off of a Death Valley driver. Now, the main point of this is the aftermath of the match, where the Righteous attack their opponents with steel chairs and the wooden block that they come out to the ring with, and they place the wooden block in between their opponent's feet and then hit the chair with them. This prompts Samy and Dustin Rhodes to come out to save the day, but the opponents already got attacked with chairs, so they did not do a good job of that. And this is not the last that we'll see of the Righteous, Samy, and Dustin on this episode. As our next matchup is Josh Woods versus Tomohiro Ishii. I feel that they made it a point that Tomohiro Ishii faces all the premier athletes because he definitely had a match with Arya Daivari. I'm fairly certain he had a match with Tony Nese, and now he is going against Josh Woods, who, in my opinion, is the best of the bunch, and this was an enjoyable matchup. Woods starts the match off with a fast pace, and then he spends some time trying to target the neck area of Ishii. The two exchange exploding suplexes, with Woods following his up with a running knee for a 2 count. Ishii's second rope suplex is followed by a big lariat that gets a very close 2 count. Ishii has to follow this up with a brain buster to win the matchup. This prompts Arya Daivari to attack afterwards, and then Kyle O'Reilly, a rare sighting by Kyle, comes out to save the day and to save his conglomeration tag member, which we'll be talking about the conglomeration a little bit later in the review. As now, the last that we see of Samy and Dustin this episode, as they call out the Righteous again, and it is hilarious because the Righteous were right there. This is all in the backstage area, and the Righteous then attack Samy and Dustin with steel chairs and look at the tag titles, and they think about walking away with them, but drop them before actually walking away with them. As now we have a 6-man tag match, Top Flight and Action Andretti versus Jossie, Trip Jordy, and Dante Leon. And they made several notes that, there's 2 different Dantes in this match. Trip and Andretti start the match off, even though there are frequent tags throughout the match. Andretti gets trapped in his opponent's corner at one point, but flips over his opponent to get the tag. And then Dante hits the other Dante with his finish to win the match for his side. As now we're going to our retro match of the week. We went from Joe versus Kobashi to Danielson versus Kenta, 2 of my all-time favorite Ring of Honor matches. Then we had a ladder war, which all these matches that they have done thus far have been themed closely to the episode. So Joe vs. Kobashi was to promote Wrestle Dream. Danielson versus Kenta was to promote Wrestle Dream and Bryan Danielson. The ladder war was to promote ladder war coming up that week. Last week, we got Athena versus Mercedes Martinez, which made sense because it was Athena's championship celebration ceremony. Let's start with where Athena won the championship. And now, because this is a Halloween-themed episode, we get a competitor that used to dress up in a costume. That being Curryman, as he faces Jay Lethal from This Means War in 2005, October 29th, to be exact. Now, I will say, though, I did not take a lot of notes on this match, because I would say that at least half of this match was the two having a dance battle, and then people at ringside being encouraged to take part in the dance battle. At one point, Curryman has to acknowledge, like, hey, it's fun and cool to dance and whatnot, but we need to wrestle, you know. So, I'm not going to say he was pissed, but he's like, let's just get this match on the way. So, the match mainly was overtaken with this dance battle. The actual in-ring action that I was able to write down involved Curryman having the advantage for a majority of this match until Lethal moved out of the way of a BME attempt. Curryman also attempts to hit a spice drop, with Lethal hitting a snap suplex to win the matchup. So I said I was going to review the throwback match of the week, but I was like, if I'm in a rush, I'm in a hurry, I'm just going to skip it. If I would have knew in advance, this might have been one of those, but at least I could say I've reviewed all of them that they've done thus far, and I'm intrigued to see what the hell they choose for next week. As our next matchup is Billy Starks versus Blair Onyx. Back and forth early until Starks starts to use an aggressive and more pissed off side. She does miss a swan dive attempt, but hits a new maneuver, which is very much a tombstone to win the matchup. So now this is a very important development, and probably something that, I was going to say the second biggest thing to come out of this episode after the main event. But it was the Infantry versus Angelico and Serpentico. But prior to the match, we get a backstage segment in which Shane Taylor Promotions join up with the Infantry and ask them to be on their side. Like Shane Taylor Promotions, Shane Taylor specifically, has been disappointed in the Infantry losing several matchups, and everybody's starting to band together in this war that's going on inside of AEW and by default in Ring of Honor, and they want the Infantry on their side, and the Infantry, along with Trish Adora, have now joined Shane Taylor Promotions, including a new look, and even coming out to the Shane Taylor Promotions theme and Tron on the screen. So the newly joined Shane Taylor Promotions Infantry versus Angelico and Serpentico, which I think I said at the beginning that a lot of this episode felt repetitive. This is definitely a match that's had to happen at least once. I would say 3 to 4 to 5 times, you know. Maybe I'm over-exaggerating, but at least there's a bit of a difference in this match. Bravo and Angelico start the match off. SAP have the advantage until Trish Adora causes a distraction while the referee is turned. It even throws Angelico into the steel steps and encouraging her Infantry members. Like, we need to, we changed. We joined up with STP. We need to start changing. We need to start winning and whatnot. And the Infantry, after seeing Trish's more aggressive side, also become a bit more aggressive. Angelico attempts to make a comeback, but that is based off of sweeping kicks, and then Adora causes another distraction that prompts Lee Moriarty this time to come in and use his title belt on Angelico, setting up the Infantry to win the match off of a boot camp. Next matchup is Diamante versus Anaheim Belmont. Outside of a roll-up attempt by Belmont, she does little to nothing. Diamante hits a corner drop kick that is followed by the crossroads to win the match. And commentary and a pre-match promo prior to it reminds me of that terrible Diamante Red Velvet finish from 3 weeks ago, which is a bit insane that it was that long ago. But I hated that finish, and that Diamante, like, you could have won the damn title and then you didn't, and now they're trying to like, oh, she can win it next time. She could have already been the champion. Now, speaking of champions, and potential future champions, and the Ring of Honor Women's Television Champion, the first champion in that title's history, Billie Starkz, is joined by Lexi Nair backstage, who Lexi berates Billie and is pissed off at her due to what she did last week at the Athena Championship celebration, which was mainly just leave Athena high and dry, and wants her to join back and to come prepare with Athena for this big title match that is coming up. And Billie Starkz is like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Good luck with that. She did not want anything to do with it. As now, we have the Iron Savages and Jack Jameson versus the Dark Order. Silver and Bronson start the match off with a flex-off, which I even made note. This is definitely not the first time that I've said it. I've at least said it twice, 3 times. It feels like 88 times, which is an over-exaggerating and a funny number to use because this is the number of episodes of Ring of Honor we're on. Reynolds gets trapped in his opponent's corner, and it is made worse with the damaged ribs that he has due to attacks on AEW television, but he eventually does get the tag after moving out of the way of an elevator drop. The Dark Order attempt to do their flip slam, but is unable to do it, so they have to win the matchup off of a stunner suplex combo. As the next match we get is Commander versus Arya Daivari. Fast-paced early, and then it gets slowed down once Mark Sterling causes a distraction on the outside, and even at one point stomps out Commander, which is a bit of a crazy thing to say, but that's what happened. Both men move out of the way of one another's top rope maneuvers, and then Commander kicks out of a lariat. Commander is able to do a dive to the outside onto all the Premier athletes, and then once back inside of the ring, wins the matchup with his rope walk shooting star press. As now, Chris Jericho appears. And to be fair, they did a recap of his promo on Dynamite earlier in the episode, so I'm just covering both here. And essentially, he confirmed what a lot of people were suspecting, and he wants to take Ring of Honor to a new level, whether that's literally or figuratively. But what I mean by confirming is that he was talking about new TV and all this crap. I'm not getting into that promo. I'll get into this one. And there's not much said. He was talking about Halloween and hoping everybody had a happy Halloween and got candies and whatnot. And promotes the main event match, which we're literally at the main event. You ain't got to promote it anymore. But I will say, an important note. Chris Jericho appeared, which I had my suspicions about. It lasted all of about a minute 30 probably, so what a start. Thing 2, this is the more important note, the more interesting note, that next week on Dynamite, another Ring of Honor themed match happening on the Wednesday show. That being Chris Jericho, Brian Keith, and Big Bill, collectively known as the Learning Tree, facing the conglomerations Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, and Tomohiro Ishii in a fight without honor. So how crazy will they get? We will have to wait and see. And it also kind of confirms that Mark Briscoe is not done with the Ring of Honor World Championship. So we'll see what happens there. As now we got to get to the Women's Championship. And our main event match, a match months in the making. A women's title Halloween Ring of Horror match, Athena versus Abadon. Now, I'm not going to give a complete retrospective, but I will give a kind of quick recap of everything. Starting at Ring of Honor, number 77. Abadon has stalked and teased Athena, with Athena mainly running away and pushing someone else to deal with Abadon. And then it culminated last week with Athena's championship celebration ceremony, with Abadon crashing the events and smashing a cake into Athena's face. So the main point in that is that about a month ago, I could have told you, because when they first started this, I kept thinking, oh, Abadon's going to be the big match before Athena breaks the longest running title reign in Ring of Honor history. And I was like, nope, that didn't happen. And then when we got to October, I'm like, are they really going to hold out and wait and have this match on Halloween and have a Halloween-themed match? Because it's a bit of a joke that Abadon... It's a joke / meme, so it's just not that serious, but it's kind of there. That Abadon has a championship match and a Halloween-themed match every year, which I cannot say, again, it's not every year. 2021 was against Britt Baker. Last year was against Hikaru Shida. And then this year against Athena. So there's 1 year, a 1 year gap. But regardless, is the first time we're having a Halloween Ring of Horror match for the women's title. Athena, Abadon. I'll go ahead and say, spoiler alert, it was a good match. Let's see what happened. The two start off by getting chained together, which again kind of ties everything up because over the last couple weeks, Athena has been tying herself to Lexi Nair with a chain, so it is funny that these two are now tied to a chain. Athena takes the match to the outside to set up some chairs, but Abadon stops this by using a kendo stick, and then Abadon has to start running away after Athena starts swinging a barbed wire bat that mainly hits and smashes pumpkins that were on the outside on a table. The two crash onto a table that does not want to break. It takes legitimately 3 attempts, loud thuds, it slides, it did not want to break, but at one point it actually, after the third attempt, it does. Athena then tries to bring a ladder into the match, but Abadon drop kicks the ladder into Athena. A cutter. Abadon hits a cutter onto a trash can that gets a 2 count. And then Abadon goes to the outside to spill some thumbtacks, but Athena throws Abadon into the steps to avoid using them. Athena then slips out of the chain at one point and gets caught by a kendo stick. And commentary team made a good point that if the referee wasn't trying to worry about Athena trying to put the chain back on Athena's wrist, that Abadon potentially could have won the match. Nice little note, but that did not matter as the match continues. Both go to the outside apron with Athena powerbombing Abadon onto the steel steps for a very close 2 count. This then prompts Lexi Nair to bring some skewers, which I do not understand how the spots work. Like how these sticks get stuck into someone's head. Granted, only one, I would say there's about 10, only one stuck in Abadon's head, but that one was enough for blood to start gushing. And I don't know if it was like an audio error on their part, but it went silent. You could hear a pin drop, as the saying goes, but it went very silent once the blood started pouring out of Abadon's head. But then we go to the outside, and the thumbtacks are then used after Abadon hits a powerful slam that gets an extremely close 2 count, and Abadon starts cussing up a storm. We go back into the ring, or Abadon does at least. Athena stays on the outside and has to go under the ring to grab a glass bottle that smashes into Abadon's face, sending Abadon to the outside, perfectly positioned onto the steel chairs set at the very beginning of the match. And Athena wins the match after hitting an O face on Abadon onto those chairs. So, I will give them credit. This match was worth the 2-month wait. It's a joke. Behind every joke is a little bit of truth. So, it's like, I wasn't that bothered that we had to wait for this match. It was just, they set this up and started this 2 months ago. And about a month ago, I was like, oh, they're going to wait till Halloween to do this match. So, it did happen. That was the conclusion of this 3-hour episode of Ring of Honor. The main event I enjoyed. The other stuff, if you start fast forwarding, which, spoiler alert, when they started doing entrances, I was like, I'm fast forwarding through some of these because, like I said, a lot of this episode felt repetitive. I am intrigued to see where the infantry in Shane Taylor Promotions go because I do think that it is a good fit and a good direction to go. I kind of feel that Dustin and Samy versus the Righteous, I don't want a 2-month build for that. And so maybe we see that match next week. Who knows? I like the dynamic between JD Drake and Beef because they feel and seem so similar. And the way that Anthony Henry is kind of setting it up was like JD was not going to like Beef. And that kind of has not been the case, but it's literally been 1 week of those two together. I'm just trying to reminisce on everything over the past freaking 3 hours. So if I had to give a quick recap, go watch the main event. It is enjoyable. And what the hell will be next for our longest reigning champion in Ring of Honor history, Athena? We'll have to wait till next week to find out. So I do appreciate y'all all for watching this episode of the ROH TV Reviews, episode 89. We are 88 I was trying to fast forward in it so we can go to 89. We're almost at that big 100 mark. I'm going to hope that they put on a great episode for that episode 100. And hell, on that road to episode 100, put on continuously great episodes. You know, that way my responsibility is a bit easier and fun to deal with. I'm going to keep rambling. Hopefully y'all had a safe Halloween and have a safe weekend coming up. I do appreciate y'all for watching. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.